Shalom, folks. It's time for me to address another post I put on Facebook. Looks like back September 22nd, about a week ago. It's entitled, I Will Now Address Islam. All right, so I begin with, what's the difference between Islam and Muslim? All right. Islam is one thing, but a Muslim is something different. A Muslim is a person, all right? Whereas Islam is well, we'll discuss what Islam is later. But Muslims come in many different forms. They're human beings, they're people. They're created in the image of God, as the Bible says, man is created in the image of God. And they're to be treated as people, individuals. Everyone's different, and that's the way it is. Now, I just used the word Muslim, right? But you really ought not do that, because something else I just said. Everybody's different. So when you use the word Muslim, you really need a qualifier with it. What kind of Muslim? You know? And they come in many different forms. And why do I know Muslims are not all the same? Yep, you got it. Because they're killing each other. Because one says one thing and one says something else, and they disagree. Now, I'll get into that when I talk about Islam. Because basically, you could say a Muslim is a person who practices Islam. But we got to be careful about that. So, you have Muslims. They may be Mecca Muslims or they may be Medina Muslims. All right, the difference between Mecca and Medina. There's also the Sunni or the Shia, and etc., etc. You know, you have ISIS or ISIL. Then you have Boca Raton or whatever it is, and so on and so on. But to generalize, a Muslim is a person who practices one of the many forms of Islam, or a person who aligns with one of the many Islamic states. Really, it's a person. And Elohim said, "Let us make man in our image, in our likeness." So Elohim created man in his own image. And in the image of Elohim, that's God, in the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. So they are creations of God. A Muslim is an individual person who is created in the image of God. And to interpret from the book of the Acts of the Apostles, a great sheet knit at the four corners was let down to the earth. And God hath cleansed, and what God hath cleansed, call not thou common. Of a truth, I perceive that God is no respecter of persons, but in every nation he that feareth him and worketh righteousness is accepted with him. Thou wentest into men uncircumcised and did eat with them. And as I began to speak, the vision is about, I'm talking those little phrases were from where the sheet came down and Peter saw it and was full of all kinds of stuff, and the Creator said, go ahead and eat, and Peter said, no way, I ain't eating that stuff. I'm not eating snakes and rats and dogs and kitty cats and all them things. So the vision is about opening a relationship with people from the four corners of the world. It's not about eating bacon, right? The key to our Constitution and Bill of Rights in regard to this discussion is, as I began to speak, right? As I began to speak. We have to be able to speak. Speaking is very important. We need to be able to speak to people, to persons. And Muslims are persons. We need to be able to communicate with persons. They're part of the four corners of the earth. They're people, created in the image of God, and we need to be able to speak to them and with them and listen to them. Right? Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Did you hear that? Or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. We need to be able to freely exercise our belief and communicate with the Muslims so they know and can be partakers if they so desire. We shouldn't not be able to tell them the truth and all and not be able to witness to them. That's not what our Constitution's about. It's about nor prohibiting the free. It's about letting our exercise be free, our free exercise of religion. And we're not supposed to have the abridging of the freedom of speech. We're free to speak. Or the right of the people to peacefully to assemble. So we can peacefully assemble, go and witness to our Muslim friends, speak to them freely, and freely exercise our belief and share it with them. So, we must need to be able to communicate, speak freely with, and debate with it. You know, Muslim people like to debate. So do I. So we ought to be able to debate with each other. I think that would be a good thing. Get to learn about things, search for the truth. Okay. If we're going to treat them like Americans, we got to be able to treat them like Americans. Argue with them, show them things. Although, there's so many people in America who aren't really Americans anymore. And I'm talking about people who even been born here. I mean, you know what happens? They go to them. Oh, never mind. I'm not going to get into that. To be told we can't say something while in search for truth is un-American and un-Vermont. Article 13, that the people have a right to freedom of speech. Oh, this is Vermont Constitution now. Freedom of speech and of writing and publishing their sentiments concerning the transactions of government, and therefore the freedom of the press ought not to be restrained. Article 14, the freedom of deliberation, speech, and debate in the legislature is so essential to the rights of the people that it cannot be the foundation of any accusation or prosecution, action, or complaint in any other court or place whatsoever. That's free speech right there. I know it says in deliberation in the legislature. Okay, so my next thing I got to get into is how do I view Islam, right? I just went over what is a Muslim and all, but next is going to be what is Islam. Stay tuned.